Hey, welcome to the Restoration Soul Care Podcast, where we have honest conversations about faith, neuroscience, and hope. I'm Michael Camber, a relationship and recovery coach.
And I'm Nick Buddha, a mental health and relationship coach. If you feel stuck in shame, addiction, or pain, you don't have to face it alone. Join us for some real stories, real tools, and a real path forward. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Let's All Accidentally Touch Our Feet Multiple Times Very Quickly podcast with Nick and Jenny.
Nick, the leg toucher Buddha.
Yeah.
I don't have a nickname yet.
Jenny gracefully tolerating us, McCoy. I'm just kidding. That's a terrible
Look, I look forward to these episodes
like
when we
it.
have somebody else on because we just sit closer.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels good.
Is
Yeah.
the middle seat normally empty?
No, there's normally not a third seat. It's just
Michael
a
was sandwiched last time, so
You drew the short straw this
I
time.
did. I'm the
PB&J.
peanut butter and the jelly.
Yeah, you're both.
You guys are both the white bread.
I prefer rye, but that's fine. I'm kidding. Welcome to the Restoration Soul Care Podcast. My name is Michael. This is my friend Nick. And today we have a very special guest joining us, Jenny McCoy, who is a certified sexologist. And that's where I'm going to run out of space talking because I didn't plan on doing an introduction. Nick, you want to say more about Jenny? You know Jenny more than I do.
Yeah, we're diving right in. This is awesome. I love it. We're having another conversation today, acknowledging the fact that sex is very impactful to our entire being. I think we all agree on that.
Mm-hmm.
But specifically, we want to talk about the impact that pornography or other compulsive sexual behavior has on us and the reality of what we're discovering in that field. So we thought, who better than to invite our friend, Jenny McCoy.
Thank you.
Jenny
Thank you very
is a wife, a mother, active in our community. Jenny and I happen to be a part of the same church family. I consider her a friend. Is that okay?
I accept.
Okay, good. She's
Glad we
probably,
made-
she likes my
made it
wife a lot
official.
more than me,
Yeah.
but
Podcast friends. Is that a new category? Podcast friends?
podcast friends.
Sure, we'll take it.
Yeah.
PCFs?
Uh,
Sorry.
so, Jenny, let's unpack this for a second.
Yes.
You're a licensed marriage and family therapist, so you do a lot of therapy work with
Yes.
couples, individuals, but you also have this additional title, like a specialization as a,
Certified sexologist.
what in the world does that mean?
It just means I know a lot about sex and have studied a lot about sex. So sexology is more research-based, study-based, data-based. It's not actually where the interaction comes in. So I use the sexology component in marriage and family therapy by being able to educate people as I'm working one-on-one or as couples with them. And so I can have some extra skills and techniques and data and education in order to provide some backup for them to better understand what our goals are and interventions are.
I'm guessing when say a couple comes in or an individual comes in, you're readily open to say, hey, I have trouble with my life. It's relational, but specifically it has to do with my sex life. And you're like, okay, let's work through that. So that's
Yes,
a dynamic
dive
that you're
in.
actively contributing or
Yes.
working through.
Yes. And even when they don't come to talk about sex, I make them talk about sex.
Solid.
Yeah. Because there's usually a component of that.
Yeah.
I think also having the educational background, I am better able to make people feel comfortable talking about it because people don't love coming to an office and just talking about their sex life or
Yeah.
saying penis and vagina. Like, it's uncomfortable. And so being able to kind of be comfortable myself gives them a sense of ease to talk about something that maybe they haven't talked about
Yeah. Yeah.
before.
Yeah. You've informed me too. I think you've shared too, you have a passion for, especially among female clients, in light of the story we've sometimes lived as Christians, that there's been a lot of unhelpful teaching and cultural dynamics around sexuality, that's been a passion point for you. Is that correct?
Yes, 100%. I grew up in the church and height of the purity culture movement, and only learned the bad things about sex, or the negative narratives about sex were highly focused on. And I think in the purity culture movement, there were two different messages between men and women. Women, it was more gatekeeper, don't do this. Men, it was a lot more, you don't have any self-control, so you got to have someone else do it for you. And it was a lot more porn focused too. And so when couples come in, a lot of times their belief system about sex and how they've been interacting as a couple with sex, it has been around for years as a result of what they learned or didn't learn at church and data. I'm a data nerd.
Well, that's actually one thing I really appreciate about you, because Michael and I are closet nerds as well.
Nick constantly pushes me out of the closet.
Yeah, mostly in regards to
there's another
Pokemon and
podcast
Ninja
for
Turtles, but
Ninja Turtles.
we can talk about sex data too. Oh, I missed out
I
today.
love
I told
it.
you guys, listen, the only socks I own now are just Ninja Turtle socks.
Michael, it's my birthday.
Today?
Is it today?
No, it's not.
Oh.
It's on 2 days.
We were going to sing happy birthday, weren't we?
No, you're
I
not
was
allowed
ready.
to.
We were.
You know what to get me now.
Ninja Turtle socks?
I only have one pair.
Of socks or Ninja Turtle socks?
I'll let you decide on that one.
He's wearing them today.
Here's what I love about your nerd side is because you're not just addressing the philosophical aspect of sexuality within relationships, but you're also very clinically and biologically informed.
Yes.
In the way that you work with men and women. And I know that some of what we've talked about too is when you're working with a client, some of that work is just them learning how to approach their body apart from a really toxic shame view, and just to understand how God has made us and wired us. And then also that this design for sex is a really good, beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And to feel the freedom to step towards it, obviously within God's terms, but at the same time, acknowledge like a lot of us sometimes approach our own body and our own sexual story through just the constant lens of shame. All right, I'm going to go right at it. You guys ready for this?
Let's do it, man.
Jenny.
What?
Can ongoing use of pornography really cause things like erectile dysfunction, premature climax, distortions in libido? Is that really true, or is that just social media?
It is very true.
Tell me more.
Okay. It's a really broad question.
It is. Here's why I ask it. And I'll say this. You get these kind of like scare tactic articles that are like, and maybe, let me be generous here. I think some of it's well-meaning efforts where a sweeping statement is made about certain things totally jacking you up sexually. But I think for the average guy too, it's like, hey, I've been interacting off and on with pornography since maybe adolescence, and I'm now hearing these scare tactics like I'm in danger of like having a sexual dysfunction. Is that really true? And I guess that's what I want to speak to is like,
Let me clarify too. The reason is because we do a lot of discussion on like neuroscience and what's happening in the brain neurochemically. And so I think part of this conversation could be helpful to sort of take that below, like what else is happening actually in your body, not just upstairs. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I would say A plus B does not equal C, but A plus B sometimes equals C.
Okay.
Like using porn doesn't mean you're going to have ED, PE, libido changes, but it can influence it. Starting from like, let's go straight to early childhood because, as my therapist side, we got to go family of origin and
Do it.
We're good with that.
youngest
We're
first.
here for it.
Research is showing that the first time anybody is exposed to pornography, which on average is between 8 and 11 these days, it's getting younger. When that happens, our brain and body perceive that as a trauma because we are not at an age capable of processing what we've seen. Now, that doesn't mean we're viewing it sexually because at age 8, a lot of us aren't thinking sexually.
Right.
But our brain and body still perceive that as a trauma. Most people, most kids, when they're 8 to 11 and see porn for the first time, don't tell anybody. Not necessarily because they're trying to hide it, but because they don't realize that they've just experienced a trauma.
Yeah.
And so as we're aging, we're carrying around this initial trauma, often with additional traumas, whether it be porn related or otherwise, added to it. And we're taking all of that into adulthood, having never addressed, explored, resolved any of it. So we're already carrying trauma sexual trauma into our life before we may even have a sexual experience. So we have that going against us already, right? It's one problem to add to our plethora of problems we end up with by adulthood.
And too, just for the super average person out there, when you say it processes it as a trauma, what do you mean by that? Like, what is actually happening in our brain body, specifically with a very early exposure to pornography?
So what typically ends up happening because we don't process it is we suppress it. And so that can come out physically. And, we may start to have physical symptoms of like increased heart rate or aches or pains, gut issues. So you're going to have those kinds of concerns. Then you have the mental emotional component where oftentimes you may begin to respond just a little differently. You may see a little difference in someone's way of approaching someone else or turning inside themselves when they used to be really social. That doesn't last forever. But you oftentimes when people find out, oh, that my kid had this experience then, parents can look back and be like, oh, I do remember there may have even just been a couple of days they showed up different. And so even relationally, they approach different. There is an interior shame and guilt because you're going to have this physiological response to what you experienced, but at that age, you don't know how to process it. And so you're going to be trying to internalize that. And so often you just are like, I don't know what to do, so I'm just going to pretend it didn't happen.
Sure.
But it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
That'd be great. We wouldn't have jobs, but that'd be great.
Yeah.
So it ends up festering, and then you start having more cognitive symptoms. And I think the other component is, depending on your age, you may have a positive response to it. You may have an arousal response to it. And if you don't process that with someone in a healthy manner, you either have shame about that or, man, I just got that first feeling of that neurotransmitter dopamine giving me some pleasure, and what does this mean? And I want that again. And so from a very early onset, you can experience that pleasure, not even knowing sexually that was the goal.
Yeah.
But then that often is when people start forming dependence or addiction or the drive for more.
Yeah.
I'm curious, and maybe this is a terrible question, but I'm going to ask it and see where we get. Let's say, for example, somebody's exposed to something when they're in that age, 8 or 9, and then they shut down, ignore it, I don't know what that was. And then let's say a couple years later, maybe they go through puberty, and then there's a engagement toward pornography. Like what, and maybe this is too broad of a question, but like what might be going on where one day they wake up and go, oh, I'm starting to notice things sexually about other people. Let me go back to this thing that terrified the heck out of me when I was younger and explore that. Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, I think they know that they had a response to it. And because they haven't processed it, like they're still going to remember it, even if a little more subconsciously. And so they're going to be able to associate the current feeling to the past feeling. And a lot of it ends up being just curiosity, not actually, oh, I want this. Most people who look at porn for the first time aren't doing it out of seeking it out. It's either curiosity or they stumble upon it.
Yeah.
And so if you have these sudden, physiological responses, especially with puberty onset, it's going to make sense that you went to explore out of curiosity, not because right or wrong, there's no shame then. Our culture kind of creates the shame on its own. A lot of what is initially stumbled upon in childhood, we as adults or society would view as shame is really curiosity, and then it is taken on as shame because we assign that to it.
What? You stop me if I'm getting off track here. I'm gonna follow.
You fire away, man.
So I'm curious.
Were these on my notes?
They're not on your.
We're in law Jenny. Now.
But at any point, you can say plead the fifth. You don't have to answer any of my questions. Or you can just stonewall me, just awkwardly stare at me.
Or you can ask about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Or we can pivot to Teenage
That's a
Mutant
great
Lots
way
of
to-
questions.
I
I just know they like pizza.
They do like pizza.
Boy, do they.
It's all kinds of nutritional deficiencies in that conversation, but they do like pizza. What happens internally to maybe our nervous systems or our neurochemistry even when some of these things get sort of bound up together in our system? So trauma, shame, curiosity, because those things, like, they don't happen independent of each other. Like, they happen, they occur, and then they grow and fester in our systems. Like,
And
what?
It's all jumbled together.
It's all jumbled together.
Yeah, it kind of becomes an internal battle. And again, I think one of the biggest concerns that we see come up in therapy is that there go my notes. A good
See,
thing
it's
you
a
don't
good
have
sign.
any
You're done.
questions. One of the biggest things that show up in therapy is that someone has experienced that jumbling of emotions and never processed it or never communicated it with anyone that could help them process it. And so none of them get resolved, none of those emotions. And some of them support each other, the emotion. Some of the emotions counteract each other. And so you go back and forth. And I think that really describes what can end up being the addiction cycle. Like, because you have this pleasure and that motivates you to do it. And then you have this shame that follows the pleasure. And so that's a negative emotion. So then you're looking for the positive emotion again. So we go back to, well, I know how this feels, so I'm going to do it again, even if I know next comes the shame.
Yeah.
So I think they do become so interwoven that it just becomes a cycle of emotional responses because you've not ever really said, okay, I think I really need to focus on the shame part. I think I really need to focus on the pleasure part that, we don't do things that don't serve us. So we're getting something from it or we wouldn't keep doing it. Right.
Sounds like the makings of a compulsive behavior.
100%.
Well,
100%.
Interesting.
taking a step back, this is what this whole conversation reminds me is like, let's put our own worldview here. So biblically, we believe that God has created every person with a sexual drive, or let me say that differently, that sexuality is a key part of their being. Mm-hmm. And so to go then a step further is to say that that is not just fully pre-programmed at birth. A lot of our approach to sexuality, mentally, physically, emotionally, is formed through our lived experience of our story. And that can either be a really healthy thing or a really unhealthy thing. And when you talk about it just being this kind of like mixed bag, that's like, I don't know what the heck. Like, there's a lot going on when I think about sexuality. Part of it wants to make me like hide and avoid it. Part of me is like, man, I'm super drawn to it. And it's just all over the place. And I guess what I'm getting at too is I feel for a lot of people, men and women, who have been born and raised in our current cultural dynamic where, again, something that's becoming more consistent is in very early exposure to whether it be pornography or I would say very aggressive sexual dynamics, right? So that in and of itself is confusing, especially for a child. And then too, we're thrust into a culture where, there's almost a shameless approach to sexuality. And this is very true with Michael and I both have young kids, but like you don't even have to get to middle school before like the sexual level of joking, conversations, references are just like off the charts. Let alone, statistically they're saying too, if you leave high school now and are not exposed to pornography, you're in the vast minority. So I'm putting all that together to say, wow, like I just really feel for young people and also for a lot of people whose stories that they maybe tend to believe like, man, I must be really unique and jacked up because sex is confusing to me. It's a struggle for me. When in reality, it's like, no, actually, like you're speaking for a lot of people who feel this.
And I think too, if you think of our kids' ages, who are they being raised by? They're being raised by the products of purity culture from the church.
Sure.
And so
do better, Nick.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
I've got some time for a session after this.
Please do that right now on camera.
So, you have you're trying to teach your kids healthy sexuality when you weren't taught healthy sexuality. Yeah. And when often you haven't come to a place yourself of healthy sexuality. And so we're teaching our kids from our own brokenness. That's in all areas of life. Like I've already started a therapy fund for my son because I know he's going to need it. I'm going to do something, right? To screw him up. But like, it's important to note like where we fall short and what we're sharing that may be out of our own brokenness, not health. And even as Christians showing up in a secular culture that is shameless, I think the opposite of that, a lot of what we grew up with, and a lot of churches still produce is shame-filled. Yeah. So, like, there's no health there. It just seems to still be extremes in a lot of instances.
Yeah. Let's go in a little bit more specific too. So like, I think what Michael and I have talked about too is this idea that we're permeable. So again, we are affected by our lived experiences and the things that we're downloading, often subconsciously, or just like it's playing in the background. From what I'm understanding, and I want you to correct me, is like let's just use the term sexual template and all that's involved in that. Our view of sex, our approach to sex, our emotions associated with it, what we get aroused by, what's desirable for us. Some of that's just within us, but then some of it's forming and being impacted by what we're going through. Is that part of I just hit the mic.
I've done that like 3 times.
Boop. Is
I
part
figured
of that,
he'd edit it out or something.
Animals.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I can't edit out.
Oh, shoot.
That's fine.
I think of the idea of conditioning. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So like even Pavlov's dog, is that also true for like our sexual drive and our arousal and, because I'm thinking of the person we just threw out big, horrible things like, oh, like, am I going to get ED, erectile dysfunction, or wrestle with premature climax, or you fill in the blank. But is some of that dynamic more impacted by conditioning, or does it seem more random to your clients?
Are the conditions random? Is that what you're asking?
Is the result like some of the struggles that some people have come to you with?
I think it's the whole, you can go back to the basic psychology of nature nurture, and I think it's a combination. And so many extra factors too. Even medication can impact PE and ED. But we definitely see a positive correlation with increased premature ejaculation and erectile dysfunction, and decreased libido in a relationship. I think that's a key component. Your libido is not necessarily lower. Your libido towards human beings is lower.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so we definitely see that in correlation with increased porn use.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about conditioning, though, and this is where people are like, oh man, I've been looking at this and now this is who I am. If we can condition you to become that way, we can condition you to change.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like it's
Neuroplasticity is our favorite thing. Your brain's moldable.
Instead of being like, oh, well, too late now, or feeling hopeless about it, like that should, if anything, give you more hope that, hey, I didn't start out like this. I don't have to stay like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. This is one thing, and I hope all of my clients are listening to this right now. Or, well, by the time this airs, right now.
Guys, get on it.
Right now. But I try to get them to understand this early on, that compulsive pornography use is a rehearsed behavior, and it gets reinforced because you keep rehearsing it. And oftentimes the pathway out of that is rehearsing your way out of it. So how do we form new habits, new rituals, so that we give our brain new, if you think about driving down a freeway, new and different and more consistent off ramps, rather than, if we continue in pornography use, it sort of tightens the guardrails. It's like, well, now you're down to one lane and you can't go anywhere. It's just porn.
And it's one way.
Yeah, it's one way.
Street.
That's right.
Well, hey, as we're wrapping up with time, can we talk to the individual or the couple that's like, all right, Jenny, hot take again, porn is either part of one of our stories or both, and we're trying to figure out right now, what's the best first step? They come into your office. What's the big picture things? Or what would you just embrace them with initially as they come to terms with that?
Well, one, grace. It's very easy, there's the betrayal, the feeling of betrayal for the betrayed partner. But again, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm just throwing the church under the bus at every step.
No, we're pro-church.
We are. We are. But I do think that sexual sins have had this. Sorry, I'm going dry here.
You okay? Would you like some water?
I'm good. Sexual sin has had so much more heaviness than other sins. And going into marriage, when we've grown up in the church, it carries a heaviness that can make it feel like an uphill battle and can make it feel so much more significant that, okay, yeah, I got issues, but look at you. Like, we've got to focus on this and we've got to heal this. And it's like a now or never type thing. And so I often think, when we go straight into feeling that heaviness, it feels more hopeless. And it feels more me against you, and I'm the problem, and you've got to fix this, and you have to do this, versus approaching it from a team effort and with grace that, like the Lord gives us. We often give ourselves and our partners way less grace than the Lord gives us, right? I'm guilty of that myself. So like it's natural. It's our sinful nature. But I think if we can get back to the grace-filled aspect, we're not as hard on ourselves. And when I see that grace be accepted and that shame decrease, a lot of the problems start to resolve more easily because you're interrupting one thing in that cycle, and that's that shame component. We talked about the mixed bag inside of emotions. If we can interrupt just one thing, do one thing differently, the same impact's not going to happen. We're not going to have the same result. And so just doing one little thing differently can give you a feeling of a win, W-I-N, win, and that can give you motivation to do more. Yeah. And so oftentimes it's not, okay, go cold turkey. No, it's, okay, I want you, when you want to look at porn, set a timer for 5 minutes. Don't look at porn for that 5 minutes. If you still have that urge, okay. Now people look at me really crazy when I say that, because they're like, well, shouldn't I just not be looking at it all? Yeah, that's the end goal. But if we can get you a win, when your brain learns, oh, like I can wait 5 minutes to look at it, I don't have to have it right now, I can have delayed gratification, just that one step gives them the motivation and encouragement that, oh, if I can do that, I can wait 10 minutes. And then once we calm your brain down so that it learns that there are off-ramps, okay, here's an off-ramp to go take a walk. Here's an off-ramp to call a friend. Here's an off-ramp to drink a sweet tea. Not that I'm encouraging one addiction to the next. But like, okay, now my brain can consider an alternative. Yeah. And that's where we typically see progress being made and some of that hopefulness come back.
Yeah.
Progress, not perfection.
Yes.
Oftentimes I love that you said that, by the way, because one of the things that we talk about pretty often is like that, like if you've been in church, like we have one category for this, sin, and we have a response that we typically have to sin. Stop.
Yeah.
And like for most things, maybe you would say that like, okay, you can probably quit a lot of things cold turkey or stop, talking people rudely or things like that, whatever you want to classify. But when it comes to pornography, there's a lot of stuff happening under the surface, neurologically, physiologically, that's not just like I can just cold turkey stop. And so we're not advocating for porn use. What we are saying is, and I didn't hear you say that, by the way.
Yeah.
What we are saying is that we're looking for progress, not perfection, because a little bit of progress moves you toward the path of significant change. And the beauty of it is that God knows us deeply, and he understands that, and that's what grace is for. Not abusing it like Paul warns us against, but living fully into it to say, God's grace is here, it's expansive, it's deeper than I could ever exhaust it. Let me rest in that so that I can keep working toward the thing that I want to get away from.
Yeah. And he knows our heart and he knows our motivation.
Yeah.
And that's something I think the relationship component we often fail to acknowledge when we're trying to make progress on anything.
Yeah.
And so remembering and reminding ourselves, like, he knows our motivation. He knows our motivation is to, have full sobriety from this at some point. And he also knows we may not be perfect, which is why he sent Jesus.
Bingo.
Yeah, I always remind people too, like the idea of sanctification, which is this slow process. It's a lifetime. That's God's idea.
Yep.
Bingo.
Bingo.
He even created the idea that like we don't get turned perfectly into Jesus in an event. It's a really messy struggle, a process. And man, if I can't be down with that, then that says something about my own orientation of like, well, that's God's idea. So why can't I extend that to either myself or others? And what I'm hearing too is like some of hope or some of how hope is robbed with an individual or a couple is, one, they treat this struggle as this like permanent scarlet thread. That's like, why, of all things, like we got sex struggles or we got porn use in our story, so we're jacked. And you're saying no. That could be probably downloaded from some really unhelpful resources. I see the enemy at work there, just saying, we'll just keep you locked in that shame mode. And the same with the individual too. It's like, man, I've been struggling for this for 10, 20 years. It's never going to change. Bull crap.
Bull crap.
I think Jenny would say, I think we would say, we see guys making often progress when they're putting the effort into it a lot quicker than they even thought.
Yeah. I have 60, 70-year-olds come in the office, and I'm always like super proud of them because I know it is not comfortable for them to be approaching for help or talking to a younger female about it. And
I'm guessing for those people too, they have a story of where they've invested probably decades of this pattern in their life, and they're still coming and saying, hey, maybe change and hope is possible.
Yeah. And they may have either not realized it was a problem before, or someone told them it was a problem and they needed help now, or they've gone through periods of changing the behavior. And then wondering why, oh man, the behavior change alone, shoot, that didn't work. We're back at it. And so I'm always really proud of them for coming in and not saying like, well, I'm 65, 70 years old now. I guess this is just my lifelong struggle, and are still willing to try something new and put in the work.
Yeah. That's great. Well,
if you could say one final thing to the listener, we always try to give our guests an opportunity to say that. What would you say to them?
Well, we didn't even get into this topic, but porn is not reality. Having a sexual experience with a human being and having pleasure and arousal and orgasm from viewing pornography is not one and the same. And the more exposure we have to pornography, the more discontent we're going to be with interactive sex with a human being. And 2, the less fulfilling that interactive sex is going to be because we have expectations of it that aren't reality based on emotional, mental, biological, gender difference components, and the sheer fact that it's a performance. We tend to forget that. And so when couples come in, one of the biggest things I see is this discontentment in the sexual relationship. And very often it is because their partner is not initiating, responding, performing, having it as frequently as they witnessed in porn. And so no different than watching The Notebook and wondering why your spouse isn't like, you complete me. No, that's a different movie.
You don't have to throw shade
Jerry
at Ryan Gosling.
It's the same concept with pornography. Like it's not real. And so you miss a good part. And that's, I think, where my sexology comes into play in practice, is you miss a good part of like biologically the different response cycles of men versus women, libido discrepancies, like so many components that come into play that if porn has been our educator and that has formed our expectations of our sex life, it's not going to meet reality. It's incapable of it.
Yeah, that's great. That sounds like a part 2 if I've ever heard one. So
Of a 10-part series.
yeah, only 10.
Hey,
Jenny,
I was going to say, well,
Don't do
no,
it.
you go ahead.
I was just going to tell Jenny thank you for being here and
Oh, you're welcome.
sharing.
thank you.
And yeah, this
You're
is great.
welcome.
I was going to talk to that person listening.
You can talk to them.
watching.
I don't think I've kind of forgot the cameras were there. I've
No, that's
stared at
the
you the whole
goal.
time.
That's the
That's
goal.
fine.
Okay.
Thank you for asking for permission though, because I am in charge of the cameras.
Yeah, you are.
You can talk to them.
Hey, I'm Nick. If you resonate with this conversation at all in terms of, and even what Jenny just said, which is like, part of you is just not okay with this artificial world I've been living in. Like it's taking more than it's giving. I want more. If that resonates with you, I think that's what Michael and I and Jenny are here for, is to say, we want to help you with more, like to come into the light and to experience the beauty of living on God's terms, but also the beauty of this design of sexuality. So that's why we would say, if you want to reach out to Michael or I, rscky.com. Jenny, do you have something that you could?
AwakenCounselingKY.com.
Boom.
Easy.
Awaken Counseling KY. We both use Kentucky. Yeah.
Awaken Counseling was already taken. I had to add
That's
something.
We have a closing tradition. We always encourage people, don't do this alone. So we say, don't do this alone on 3. 3.
2.
Don't do this alone.
Oh, we didn't count.
You tricked us.
Try
Mike.
I
again.
did. That was a curveball. Sorry. 1, 2, 3.
Don't do this alone.
Thank you all for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Later. Hey, thanks for joining us today. If you found this helpful, do us a huge favor and subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Or, better yet, send this to someone who needs encouragement.
For more tools, resources, and information about our coaching, check out rscky.com. Keep showing up.
Yeah, we'll catch you next time.